Hey guys, this is Simon with Trade and Perform Coaching doing the trade review for, let's see, today is Wednesday and 6th, the 10th of June, excuse me. And I wanted to cover something specifically. I can't go over the zone levels here because the TradeStation rolls over their contracts the evening before contract rollover, which takes place Thursday and Friday. I don't switch over to the new contract till Friday. However, TradeStation, leaving the zones the same when you do the universal contract, has already adjusted the levels, so it's kind of whack. It didn't actually quite work out this nicely, and obviously we were trading up near 2108. It looks like the adjustment was almost 9 points down. I don't want to go through and adjust. I don't want to adjust all of the zones. However, that would pit Globex high roughly, well, everything would shift down, and there's no point in covering that. And even today, the zones didn't matter so much. Why? Right? Because the area that I want to address specifically this evening is the open drive higher, the gap, and the trend day up. It's been a while since we've had this kind of market, and I want to go through the characteristics and what the trade plan should be if we're getting an open drive higher, and how you adjust quickly to that environment so that you don't get run over, right? And when I'm referring to not getting run over, I don't mean by getting stopped on one or two trades. Look, for a professional trader, if you take a short, even if you identify open drive higher and you feel like it's appropriate to take a short on an open drive up, no problem. You take one stop, you take two stops, that's okay, that's survivable. You can move on to the next day. What I'm talking about are traders who take the first trade, they kind of get shocked that they don't get a rotation down. They take the second trade, they get shocked they don't get the rotation down. And then it's not those first two that do damage, but you kind of get into this fight or flight mode, and most men at least go into a fight mode, not a flight mode, and we start taking a trade over and over and over and over again. And it is really, it can be a horrifying experience, right? So how do you avoid that? Well, first of all, you have there's three specific things that you need to avoid that situation. Okay, first, you need to have a clear understanding of what the market, your trade specifically looks like, and in addition to what your trade looks like, right, your specific trade setup, the pattern involved, all the small details that go into making it your setup, right? You have to be clear in what environment your trade works, right? You have to be able to quickly identify what type of environment the market's in, or wait till you can identify it, right? If you can identify it in the first 15 minutes, trade the first 15 minutes. If you can identify it, if it takes you half an hour or 45 minutes, you should wait that 45 minutes. Why? Because when you're trading is a game of uncertainty. Our goal as traders is to eliminate as much of that uncertainty as possible so that we can avoid going into a fight or flight response as traders. And all traders of every level I know do it. It becomes a subconscious thing, according to Dr. Brett Steenbarger. And unless you have a clearly defined plan, right, uh, and a clear vision as to what you want to accomplish, everything else goes downhill. But secondly, once you have a clear vision of what you want to accomplish, you have to have a commitment to execute the trade, right? And then the last piece is your character. How you handle the trade, win, lose, or draw. Many traders that I know, actually I'll put this, the vast majority of traders I've spoken to are pretty cruel to themselves when they take a losing trade, as if they could have known what the outcome was going to be. But as FT71 illustrates, he's a trader, futures trader, illustrates perfectly. Even if you have a 90% odds trade that a trade will work out, right? Out of 100 trades, that means that somewhere in there's going to be 10 random, it's important, 10 random trades. So that means even at a 90% win rate, you have a 50-50 odds of any one specific trade still working out, right? So we have randomness, we have, and you have to know how you're going to handle that randomness, right? And what environment it takes place in. So now let's bring it back around, if we can, to the gap and the open drive higher. In recently, and we're going to get rid of this chart because it's going to do us absolutely no good. I'm not going to redraw the zones at this time of night. So let's just pull a fresh chart. And the first thing I want everyone to see is I want to go to a 15-minute chart. And what we're going to see a lot of is, and let me, okay, what we're going to see a lot of here, I'm going to pull this in tighter so everyone can see it, is consistently we have seen open drive, what appears to be open drive lower, fail. We've seen drives down get big reversals, big V reversals consistently, right? We've seen what appears to be open drives up, right? But even within those open drives up, we have had fairly significant rotations back down, and we've rolled to the downside, right? It appears we're gap. We fill the gap here. We run, it fails, it comes back down. We gap down, it pushes for the gap, it fails, it rolls. These are two-way markets, and we've been getting a lot of two-way markets. So when we gapped today, the first thing that I looked on was the economic calendar. There really was no econ from the U.S. Side of the pond, right? We had good earnings last night from, I want to say, Netflix, and I believe Box. It's either Dropbox or Box had very good earnings on the NASDAQ. But if that would be fine, right? That would have explained the gap. Except when we look at NQ, take a look at the same chart on NQ here. Let's get back over. If we look at NQ, NQ gapped, but the gap wasn't nearly as big on NQ as it was on ES. Look at this discrepancy right out of the gate, right? So in the room, we talk about every morning when we have a gap. I want to swing this around. What are the characteristics of open drive higher? Why do we want to know that? We want to avoid getting crushed and run over, and what to look for in the trade. So first of all, let's go through the characteristics we had today. Here, let's just do this. Let's just go ahead and 86 this, since we don't need the zones are useless here since everything is shifted. Select all. Okay. So number one, we knew we had a gap. Did we have half gap fill? No. Sign of strength. Clearly, if we didn't have half gap, we didn't get gap fill. So those are we had a gap, we had no attempt at gap fill, and we had no attempt at half gap. Sign of a very strong market. Next, if we go back and look at prior days, all right, let's expand this. If we go back and look at prior days, what do we have in the first 30 minutes, right? So if we spread this out a little bit, and with the exception of Monday, right, most days, here we'll pick these off one by one. This is 9 a.m. We actually had some decent rotations within here, up and down, and certainly by the end of the first hour, right? Rotation from 2084 to 2070. We rotated down from 2074 all the way down eventually to 2064. 10-point rotations up and down. We had very little in the way of rotations here, but almost every other day we've had a healthy amount of up and down within the first hour and offering great trade location, right? So it wouldn't have been unusual to think even within this gap that we could come up perhaps even from the open 2078, get a 10-point rotation up into 2088, and we would see a contra rotation. But here's the deal. If you look all the way through here, we were having a hard time getting even 1 point, a point and a half, right? So add up those pieces. No gap fill, no half gap, no rotation. So look, unless you're a swing trader at this point, right? And I got to tell you, I looked at the past days and I really thought we were going to roll back down to the downside. I'm pretty sure, I can't swear to it, I got to go back and look because this is all shifted now, but I'm pretty sure, well, this would all be 10 points up. I'm not even going to go through the trades. I don't remember at this point, but I did take a short. I'm pretty sure I took a short at what would have been the equivalent now of 2086 this morning, and I sat there. I got one scale off for 1 point, and then I took a stop on the balance of the trade. Now, normally I'm not scalping for 1 point, but there simply was no rotations. That's the first time in there that told me, hey, nothing was going to work. I believe I took one more short right up in here near this equivalent of this 2090 level. And again, I sat there for 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, if you'll notice here. So let's say you magically did take the right area. 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, and then it breaks again. At this point, I've had 2 trades. I've had one trade work, the other trade stopped me, and I knew right there that I was in trouble. As a matter of fact, I said as much, that there's just no rotation. And now this is the hard part for a trader, right? Because I'm so competitive, I want to win, I am playing against others. I'm playing against myself as much as I'm playing against others, because I am I am both my best friend and my worst enemy in trading, right? And luckily, I had one of my partners who simply responded to me when I was frustrated. He said, "There's simply no rotation down." And when I saw that, my response to that was to step away from my computer and go grab a cup of coffee, because I knew something was wrong. When we're in a market that doesn't give you even a 2 point rotation, right? 1.5 even, it doesn't suit a contra day trader's style. Okay. And at that point, I have to decide whether trading to me at this moment is more important than protecting my capital, right? Even if I had a loss, let's say both trades had lost, I got stopped on both. Even if I had gotten stopped on both, I have to ask myself, is getting this money back right this second? Because in our heads, when we lose money, a clock goes off and we go, we can't end the day down. That's a sin, right? For most traders, they do that. And that creates an artificial pressure on top of you to come in and take that trade. Or, and usually that's a more immature trader, and all of us have that immature trader in us. Or is the adult, responsible trader going to take action and go, hey, this trade and this environment is not the environment where I make money. This may be my perfect setup. It may be a 10-point rotation on a big stretch, but something's wrong. We're not getting rotations here. I don't want to trade in a market that doesn't get rotations, and I'm going to step away till later, right? And because I stepped away, I knew something was wrong. This bar right here is Germany announcing, or leaking, quote unquote leaking, that they're going to just simply ask them, of all the concessions they've been making, that Greece gets to make just one concession out of the 10 that they're asking for, apparently, and that they'll go ahead and approve additional funds for Greece. Okay, so that news basically said Germany was blinking and that Greece would not default at least this month. We'll find out next month. And we got the pop, right? Additionally, look at NQ. NQ initially, we'll do the same thing here. We'll get rid of this since right, we're looking for parity. NQ does not have, it does get half gap, it does not get gap fill. It also had some rejection off of Globex high, first time in. But look, there's just no rotations, right? This is rotation basically from this is a 3-point contra rotations in NQ. Think about that. In most mornings, right? What do most mornings look like? Look at this. We just went from 44.20. We drive all the way down to almost 43.90. We rotate back up to 44, almost 05, and then rotate all the way down to 43.85. These are 15-point swings. We go from 15-point swings up and down to getting 2 and 3 points, right? You just got to go, hey, there's nothing here for me to do unless I'm just going to go long. And I'm not the kind of trader that just goes long off the open. I'm sure somebody did. It's just not me. So when I come in this morning, NQ obviously started driving, and as you can see, there's no contra rotations, and there's really no rotation down until the end of the day. You can see it got quite weak there, actually. At the end of the day, we rotated down from 44.90 all the way down to 44.75. But when you put it in relative perspective, there was no counter rotation. So I want to go back to that one more time. In order to be a successful trader, you have to have clarity on what you're going to do. It's not just clarity on your trade setup, it's clarity on the environment you're in. If you're in an environment where there's no rotations and you're a contra trader, which most ES traders are, it's very hard to make money on momentum trading in ES. Okay? Most ES traders are. Okay? Number two, we had random news come out in the middle of the day. Clearly, somebody with a lot of money knew that the news was going to come out because there was no sellers at all. Every bit of selling was absorbed really through the balance of the day, quite frankly, right? The last piece, when you recognize it's not your environment, even if you get your trade set up, you've got to have the willingness to walk away. How do you do that? By having that written in your trading plan as one of the checkpoints before you take your first trade. Number two, we would do a contra rally, and I've been going over this in the room every morning. Even in bear markets, and we're clearly not in a bear market, but even in bear markets, when the market gets pushed down, it has the net effect. Let's go back to the other chart. and I've been saying this for several days, and every morning we go over the trade plan, what we're looking for, and then we go through and point out trades in real time. Okay, let's pull this in. We've had on the downside 1, 2, 3, and this is really the fourth day. It didn't really go down, but in this cycle, fourth down day, right? This ends up, if you'll go back and look and take the time to do some research, you'll see that it's rare for the market to go down more than 4 to 6 days in a row. And what ends up happening is we end up getting this submerged ball effect in the water, right? And once the pressure is released, it tends to pop up like this, right? Additionally, if you look from the swing high to swing low, this was not to be unexpected, right? This is very normal price behavior, but if we take just a normal 50-60 retrace, swing high, everyone has the fib tool, right? There we go. We came right to the 50-60 retrace. That's what this is right here on ES. We're right, and then additionally, if we take a look at the bigger picture, this was the former range, essentially 2088, and more specifically before we broke down, wow, so that's all adjusted down by 10, so this would have been 2098. That's right, 2088, this was essentially approximately 2112 to 2114 was the top of the range. 2188 to 2088 to 2090, those are new numbers for the new contract, was approximately the bottom of the old range, and we are now trapped back within. So as long as ES can maintain and hold this 2088 and a quarter, which would be essentially 2100 on the old contract, depending on whether you're trading M or you're rolling over to the September contract tomorrow. I don't roll over to the new contract, by the way, until Friday. But either way, remember that as long as we can hold this 2090 or 2100 on the old contract, that means we're trapped back into the range. And when we're trapped back into the range, what normally happens is we travel back to the top of the range. And I would not be surprised to see that happen at this point. So key for tomorrow, gap up, gap down. If we gap down, are we gapping below that 2100 range on the old contract, 2090 on the new contract, right? Number one question in my head. Next question in my head, if we gap below, do we trade back above and hold that area? I want to see if we're holding in that area. I don't want to fight to the short side because I know buyers have control at that point and can push back to the old 2120, which is now approximately 2110. And if we can get and hold above 2110, a shot for the year-to-date highs is completely within question, right? The next piece that we got to ask is, there was no selling today. Does any selling step in tomorrow, and is it just light selling, or is there actually heavy selling? We won't have an answer, obviously, until the open, until we can see the first 30 minutes and get an idea of what the market wants to do. But I'm not overly bearish. We still have a series of we still have a higher low than last time. We don't even start to approach the concept of a market breaking down till we can get below this point, and we're nowhere close to it, right? As a matter of fact, it would be a big day just to retrace all the way back down to the bottom of the gap, much less fill the gap down here. So the bulls have something to work with, both the 2090 area, they have the gap fill, they have the top of the open window at 2080. They have a lot of stuff to work with to help them drive it back up. It's in their court. As long as they can hold above 2090, they really actually have a shot at taking it back to the year-to-date highs. I'm not saying they will do it. I'm just highly aware that above 2090, they are in control. So what will I do tomorrow? First thing I'm going to do is identify the environment. I'm going to look to see if there's rotations. Usually the day after a trend day, in the old rule books at least, used to lead to a balanced day. I don't know that we'll get a balanced day tomorrow. We'll have to see how the market opens and how the gap goes. Next, if we gap, do we get open drive higher or open drive lower, right? What are the size of the rotations? Do we get gap fill or half gap, right? If we open flat, what is the rotation size? If it's under 10 points in the first 30 minutes to 45 minutes, I'm going to look for balance through the course of the day. Balance markets move like this, right? If we drive higher or drive lower, actually what I'm going to look for, particularly on drive lower, is a V-shaped return to come back up. bears are having a very hard time in this market. They've had a couple of days of glory. They got smoked, smoked hard today, right? If you didn't surrender early, you got killed. So those are the things I'm going to be looking for in the morning. Remember, pre-planned entry, exit, and stop as much as you can, right? Certainly you can have your stop and your stop and your exits always pre-planned, right? You can have a scale set up for exiting out. You can have your stop where you're willing to take a maximum amount of pain. A day stop, how much money are you willing to lose in a day, right? And then next, identify what kind of trader you are. Are you a good balance trader? Are you a good trend trader? Are you a big, or do you need big fat rotations to make your money? Everyone has a trade that fits their personality. You have to find yours, right? And then last, be willing to not trade. If you're willing to not trade, you can let the market come to you and make as much money as you want. If you feel like you have to make money every day, you set yourself up for failure. Life becomes very hard. Anyways, my name is Simon. I'm with Trade and Perform Coaching. My mission here is to help traders go from being frustrated to being consistent. If anyone would like to join us in the room, simply send me an email at tradeandperform@gmail.com, and I am more than happy to invite you in to try it out for a week free of charge. And I think it's a very good deal. You get someone with 20 years plus trading experience to help guide you through the day, and well, at least half the day, the morning, and with a accurate and concise trade plan each and every day with predetermined trade locations. And if you're a zone trader, if that fits your style of trading, um, a lot of people have found it very profitable and very useful tool to add to their trading arsenals. Anyways, everyone have a great night. I'm tired. Hopefully no one got caught in the open drive higher. If you did, prayerfully you had good trade management skills and you didn't get killed for the day. And if you caught it long, congratulations. I didn't, but that's all right. There's tomorrow, and I will hopefully have a very good day tomorrow. Have a good night, everyone. We'll see y'all tomorrow.